This extra day and this extra concert, which was not planned, was a gift from our wonderful cruise director, Jan, and the captain. So thank you, guys. Now, as you gathered from my title, Are You Serious? I want to take a little different approach tonight because it's worth reveling in what we have created over the last 500 years. In the history of Western culture, there are essentially 5 artists who are considered transcendent. The first one, of course, came from a small island in Europe called Britain, and that was the great William Shakespeare. The second was the great Italian Michelangelo, who was a great painter, architect, and sculptor. And the other 3 were Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven, all of whom were born within 100 years of each other and lived within 100 miles of each other in Germany and Austria. You have to wonder what was in the water at that time. Now, this was an astonishing thing, because what happened was, just as oil painting made it possible for the great painters to emerge in the Renaissance, when Bach finally figured out how to tune a piano, he called it the well-tempered clavier, all bets were off. From then on in, we had generation of great composers. Bach, Handel, and Scarlatti were all born the same year, as a matter of fact. There was just talent tumbling over each other, which continued, of course, well into the 60s, as you had the Beatles and the Stones and all emerging at the same time. It's a great thing that happened. But what really occurred during all of this was a huge change of style as well with every single generation. Now, in the Baroque period, where Bach worked and lived, it was a very different world than one we inhabit now. Bach really believed that there was a God in heaven and a devil below, and that you had to live your life always thinking about this. And his music reflected this. And as a result, all music from the Baroque had a limitation on it, which was called the doctrine of affections. In one key, you could only play in one mood. You couldn't change moods within a certain key. So for all the wonderful variety within the music, they were still clamped down a little bit by this belief. What Bach managed to do was take one mood, like the key of G minor, and turn it into a whole universe, even as he stayed within his one mood. So I want to start with the grandfather of music, Johann Sebastian Bach, and his little fugue in G minor, which it's a short piece, it's in one key with one mood, and yet as you'll see, it encompasses the whole world. We'll warm it up, of course, with Jesu, Joy of Man's Desire.